Hello children, we are back with a new video on ray optics and we are doing refraction of light. In the first lecture we discussed what exactly is refraction of light and what quantities get altered as a consequence of refraction of light. Okay. We also did refraction of light through a composite slab. Now we are going to discuss some consequences of refraction of light. And one of the most important consequences of refraction of light is apparent depth or apparent thickness. For example, when you look at a swimming pool, for example, if you don't look like this vertically, but if you look at an angle, you find the swimming pool is less deep, right? Same thing, if you keep water in a glass, transparent glass, and watch it from the side, you'll find that depth of water appears to be less. In the same manner, when you look at a glass slab laterally from the side, then what will you find? That the thickness of glass slab is what? Less. So, all these phenomena are basically a consequence of refraction of light. So, you are going to see now apparent depth. Apparent depth. Imagine we have a transparent container and this transparent container is filled with the liquid up to the brim like this, and this is bottom of the glass, and the actual height of liquid is H, we can also call HR. Now imagine the light is traveling from here like this. Here we will draw a normal. You can see children that this light is traveling from a denser to a rarer medium. You are watching from the air, and the light will be traveling from denser to a rarer medium, will be bending away from the normal, something like this. And when you watch it, when you look at the water surface from this angle, you will see that the ray will appear to meet here at this point. Suppose this is P, this will be what? P dash. Suppose this point is O. There are two rays we have taken traveling from point P. One is inclined at a certain angle and the other one is traveling at 90 degree perpendicular to the surface. This is the surface. So you can see that this ray will not be deviated. It is along the normal, so it will be traveling straight, undeviated, but the second will be refracted, will be deviated. And these two rays appear to meet at point O dash. So when you watch it from here, you will be able to see only this much. You will not be able to see OP. You will be seeing only what? OP dash. And this OP dash is called apparent depth. dA or HA we can write. We can also H dash for this. We will find a relation between the real depth and then the apparent depth. Clear? Children, the ray is traveling from a denser to a rarer medium, bending away from the normal. So this angle becomes angle of incidence. I'll mark this as I, and this angle of refraction, I'll mark this as what? R. Clear? Now let's do some nomenclature here. I'll say this point is A, this point is B. Now, if this angle is R, children, so this angle will also be equal to how much? R. Vertically opposite angle. And we draw perpendicular here. This point is C. So P dash C will be same as PB. If I use Snell's law, using Snell's law, If you use Snell's law, children, sin I divided by sin R will be 1 by mu. The ray is traveling from denser to rarer medium, so the ratio becomes 1 by mu, principle of reversibility of light. Okay. Now, how much will be sin I, children? Sin I, if I look at this triangle ABP, then sin I will be PB by AP. Now you can see that PB is equal to P dash C by construction. So it will be P dash C by AP. And again, sin R, if I use sin R, then perpendicular is P dash C and the hypotenuse is how much of P dash A. So it will be P dash C by AP dash. So I got the values of sin I and sin R. If we substitute these values in equation 1, therefore, from equation 1, children, if you put this value, then you get P dash C by AP divided by P dash C by AP dash is 1 by mu. Now, if you simplify, then P dash C will cancel out. What do we get? AP dash by AP is equal to 1 by mu. So, what is AP dash? AP dash is the apparent depth and AP is what? The real depth. So, you can write here H apparent is equal to, if you cross multiply, H real divided by mu. In many textbooks, apparent is written H dash is equal to H by mu, where H is the real depth and mu is what? Refractive index. Now, in a number of books, in place of mu, they will be writing n. If mu is written as n, then we get apparent depth H dash is equal to H by n. So, here we got a formula. Now, the depth which you are not able to see is P dash P, and this P dash P is called apparent shift. We call it what shift? Apparent shift. Now, but before that, here we come across very important formula, Latin words. Apparent depth. So, these two formulas will be, you can remember in words also, apparent depth is equal to real depth by refractive index n, and refractive index mu or n. You can write any of these two symbols. You can either write mu or you can write n is equal to real depth upon refractive index. So, clearly you can see the real depth will be more than the apparent depth. Clear? Now, once you understood this, let us understand. Suppose you go for swimming, you are an amateur swimmer, not very experienced, you are just beginning to learn, and your height is 5 feet, suppose 8 inches, and you go to a swimming pool for swimming, and when you look at this, suppose the real depth of swimming pool is 6 feet, and refractive index for water, suppose, is 4 by 3. Then when you will look at the swimming pool, you will find that apparent depth will be h by n, which will be 6 by 4 by 3. So, 6 into 3 by 4. So, it will be 4.5 feet. So, when you look at the swimming pool, it will appear to be only how much? 4.5 feet, and if you take a plunge in it, if you jump, then on hitting water you find it is not actually 4.5 feet, it is what? 6 feet. It will go above your, water will go above your head, and then if you do not know how to swim, it will be a problem. So, real and apparent depth is a real problem that we encounter in day-to-day life. Once you understand real and apparent depth, you should understand this derivation also. Then we understand what is apparent shift. Apparent shift. Apparent shift x is equal to, or you can also write delta h for this. Apparent shift x will be equal to real depth minus apparent depth. So real is HA, HR, and apparent depth is here, this depth, this is HA. So real depth minus apparent depth is the shift, this is the shift. So if you put it here, HR minus HR by mu, so shift will be H into 1 minus 1 by mu. So this much you will not be able to see. For example, if I look at the swimming pool problem here, then the real depth is how much? 6 feet, and the apparent depth is how much? 4.5. So how much the shift? Shift x is equal to 6 minus 4.5, 1.5 feet. Means 1.5 feet you will not be able to see. So children, we understood the concept of real and apparent depth. This is the reason that when you keep a glass slab here and you have an ink spot and if you see it obliquely, you find that it has been what? Raised. Clear? So real and apparent depth is an important phenomenon. Now we will see what will happen, what is the real thickness and what will be the apparent shift for a composite slab which is made up of a number of different materials. Okay? So we will be seeing how we can use this equation for a composite slab. Okay? Thickness of a composite slab. A composite slab basically is a slab which is made up of different reflecting materials. Suppose here we have one material whose thickness is T1 and refractive index is mu1. Then you have another slab, thickness is T2 and refractive index is mu2. And then we have, this is T3, refractive index is mu3. So we can have all these slabs combining into a single block, and that is what we call as a composite slab. Okay? So we will say mu2, mu3. Here we have got a composite slab having thickness T1, T2, T3, etc. and refractive indices are mu1, mu2, mu3, etc. So when I look at T1, then its apparent thickness becomes how much? I am watching from this side. If I am watching from this side, then it will happen, something like this will happen. Take a point here at the bottom. Take two rays. One ray is going along the normal, so it will go straight, and the other one is going at a certain angle. And then what will happen? It will bend away from the normal. It will go something like this. So this will be the apparent thickness T1 dash. Similarly, this will have a thickness T2 dash, this will have a thickness T3 dash. So total apparent thickness will be T dash will be equal to T1 dash plus T2 dash plus 3T dash dot dot dot. So apparent thickness will be T1 by mu1 plus T2 by mu2 plus T3 by mu3. Means for calculating apparent thickness, we will be dividing thickness of each slab by its refractive index, right? So apparent thickness T dash will be equal to sigma T by mu. Clear? This is the apparent thickness. Now what will be the total apparent shift? Apparent shift will be apparent shift in the first one will be x is equal to T1 minus T1 by mu1. What is apparent shift? Real thickness minus apparent thickness, or real depth minus apparent depth. Similarly, for the second block will be T2 minus T2 by mu2, and this will be T3 minus T3 by mu3, etc. I will go on depending upon how many slabs you have lined up. X can also be written as sigma T minus T by mu. So, this will be the apparent thickness, right. If I want, I can separate in two parts also, like T1 plus T2 plus T3, that will be real thickness, T1 by mu1, T2 by mu2, T3 by mu3 will be apparent thickness. So, we can also say like this, or x is equal to T1 plus T2 plus T3 minus T1 by mu1 plus T2 by mu2 plus T3 by mu3. You go on. So, I can say x is equal to sigma T minus sigma T by mu, meaning add up all the real thickness and add up all the apparent thickness and then subtract the apparent thickness minus real thickness, that will be the apparent shift that will be there in the composite slab. For example, suppose I place 3 slabs. For the first slab, mu1 is 1.4 and thickness is 4.2 centimeter. For the second one, mu2 is equal to 1.5, T2 is 6 centimeter, and mu3 is suppose 1.6 and T3 is 8 centimeter. These 3 slabs will be lined up one on top of the other. Then I want to find out apparent thickness. So, what will be apparent thickness? Apparent thickness will be T dash will be equal to T1 by mu1 plus T2 by mu2 plus T3 by mu3. So, children, for calculating apparent thickness of the slab, I am going to find out apparent thickness of each slab and adding together. So, T1 is 4.2 and mu1 is 1.4, T2 is 6, mu2 is 1.5, T3 is 8 and mu3 is how much? 1.6. Okay. Then, so this is the apparent thickness, T1 by mu1 plus T2 by mu2 plus T3 by mu3. Apparent thickness is 12 centimeter. So, what will be the shift? Shift will be apparent shift, x will be equal to total real thickness minus total apparent thickness. So, we have total T minus total T by mu. Now, total T is how much, children? We will be adding 4.2 plus 6 plus 8. Clear? So, 10.2 plus 8 is how much of 18.2 centimeter. And total apparent is 2 centimeter. So, it will be 6.2 centimeter. So, it makes a lot of sense, whereas the actual thickness is, you can see 18.2 centimeter. We are finding the thickness has greatly reduced. It has become 12 centimeter and we are not able to see 6.2 centimeter of the thickness until you watch it vertically like this, not obliquely. Clear? So, I am sure you have got clear concept about real and apparent depth. Clear? So, remember, when you look inside water from outside, the water will appear to be less deep, but the condition will be reversed. If you go inside water and look outside, then what will happen to the thickness? It will increase, right? If the depth of water is 6 feet and you go inside water, and let us say the refractive index of water is how much here? 1.4. So, if you go inside water and look at this column of 6 feet height, from inside water it will appear as if it is 6 into 1.4, 8.4 centimeter, right. So, generally apparent depth is less when you are watching from a rarer medium into the denser medium. However, if you go from a denser medium or looking into the rarer medium, then the thickness will, apparent thickness will be more, and the mu into h. Clear? So that's about real and apparent thickness. Now, once you have done it, then we'll be proceeding to see refraction of light through a glass slab. Okay? Refraction through a glass slab. Children, we are going to discuss what is refraction through a glass slab and how it takes place actually. This is a glass slab we've seen in the laboratory. Let's say the thickness of glass is T and its refractive index is mu. I'm using mu, you can use N, both symbols are equally valid. Now what is going to happen here is, children, let's take a light ray striking at this point. Now this light ray as is striking at this point, in fact is going from a rarer medium to a denser medium. So what will happen to it? It will bend towards the normal. So it will bend towards the normal like this. But you can see that medium above and below is what? Same. So the light actually emerging at this end. In fact, this light will be parallel to the what? Incident ray. So see, the incident ray is something like this. This light is incident like this. And I said that medium above and below is what? Same. So this light as it will be emerging parallel to the incident ray, right? This should be kept by in mind. That as medium above and below is same, therefore the emergent ray will be parallel to the incident ray. And see, as the ray was travelling through the glass slab, it has actually deviated from its original path. And this angle, this distance which you see, the perpendicular distance between the incident ray and the emergent ray is called lateral displacement, and we denote it by delta x, lateral displacement. So we'll make certain assumptions. We'll say let thickness of the glass slab is T and refractive index is how much you have? Mu. This angle of incidence, this angle of refraction. Now children, this is O, this is A, B, C, D, this is E. Clear? If this angle is I, then how much is this angle? This angle is I minus R. I minus R. And how much will be this angle? This angle will be 90 degree. Clear? So, I will make certain assumptions. Let thickness is equal to T and refractive index is equal to mu. In the diagram as you see here, then O is which ray? Incident ray. AC is refracted ray, children, and CD is which ray? Emergent ray. CD is emergent ray. Now we look at triangle ABC. If we look at triangle ABC, in triangle ABC, when I look at this triangle, this of course is right angle triangle here, this is normal. I will first try to calculate how much is AC. AC is the length of the path which the refracted ray is travelling into the glass slab. So if I take cos R will be base which is AB divided by hypotenuse which is AC. So AB by AC. AB is T divided by AC, children. Then how much is AC? AC is T by cos R. Therefore, we get AC is equal to T sec R. So, we got how much is actually the length of the path that the light is travelling into the glass slab. Clear? Now, this I minus R, which is also called angle of deviation here, I minus R. We go to triangle AEC. This is point E. AEC. If I look at this triangle, children, then for this angle I minus R, EC, which is the lateral shift, AC is what? Hypotenuse, and we are trying to calculate how much the lateral shift. So, we have sin of I minus R will be equal to CE by what? AC. Then sin I minus R will be CE I need to calculate, which is delta x divided by AC. How much AC? T sec R. So, we cross multiply, then delta x is equal to T sec R sin I minus R. So, children, we calculated the formula or expression for lateral shift. Clear? So, lateral shift delta x is equal to, we have T sec R sin I minus R. This is an important derivation which we did for calculating what is lateral shift, and I hope you have understood what is lateral shift. Lateral shift is the perpendicular distance between the incident ray and the emergent ray. Okay? So, we did what is lateral shift. Now, once you understood this concept, then we are discussing what is critical angle and also what is total internal reflection. Okay? Critical angle, C or IC. What is critical angle? We will understand, children. We understood in the first lecture that we started on refraction of light, that when a light is traveling from denser to rarer medium, it bends towards the normal, right? Denser to bend towards the normal means I is more than R. However, when the light travels from a denser to rarer medium, then what happens? Bends away from the normal, means angle of refraction is more than the angle of incidence. So, let us see a situation out here. Suppose this is air and this is water. But why air and water? We can take any two medium, this medium 1 and medium 2. This is rarer medium, this is denser medium. Okay? Suppose the source of light is placed here at point P in the denser medium, and then rays are traveling from point P in all directions. Let us consider some rays traveling from here, like this ray for example. This ray is traveling from a denser medium into what? A rarer medium. So, when the ray is going from denser to rarer medium, it will bend away from the normal. So, it will become something like this. So, you can see that angle of refraction is more than the angle of incidence. This is angle of refraction, this is angle of incidence. Now, suppose I increase the angle of incidence a little bit more. Now, this is another normal, and here there will be even a greater angle of refraction. This angle is much large compared to this angle of incidence. Clear? Now, if I make this angle of incidence little bit more, then a situation will come, children, when this light ray will be refracted by a 90-degree angle. Meaning, in this case, this angle of refraction will become how much? 90 degree. This is a very special case. The refracted ray becomes a grazing ray. It no longer leaves the surface. It grazes the surface and goes like this. Now, this angle of incidence here becomes very special and we call it critical angle. We denote by IC. We can also simply denote it by C or theta C. And it's called critical angle. What do you call it? Critical angle. So, children, critical angle is that angle of incidence in the denser medium for which the angle of refraction in the rarer medium is 90 degree or a right angle. Okay, very important. Critical angle of incidence in the denser medium for which the angle of refraction in the rarer medium is how much? 90 degrees. So, let us define. Okay, children. So, out of the 3 rays 1, 2 and 3, the third ray actually has got refracted by how many degrees? 90 degrees. And in this case, the angle of incidence is equal to the critical angle. So, here we have defined, it is defined as that angle of incidence in the denser medium for which the angle of refraction in the rarer medium is 90 degree. If I use Snell's law, now see the ray is travelling from denser to rarer. So, sin I by sin R will be 1 by mu, sin I divided by sin R is 1 by mu. Clear? Here, children, I is equal to IC, then how much is R? R is equal to 90 degree. If I put this value out here, then sin IC divided by sin 90 is equal to how much? 1 by mu. Clear? Sin 90 is how much? 1. So, if I put sin 90 is equal to 1 here, then I get sin IC is 1 by mu, or IC is equal to sin inverse of 1 by mu. So, this is a very interesting formula. Sin IC is equal to 1 by mu, or IC is equal to sin inverse of 1 by mu. If you are writing n as the symbol of refractive index, then you can also say sin IC is equal to 1 by n, or IC is equal to sin inverse of 1 by n. So, I am sure you have understood it, that if you know refractive index of a medium, then we can easily calculate what will be the critical angle, right? Critical angle will be sin inverse 1 by n or sin inverse 1 by mu. Clear? So, the concept of critical angle is very important for understanding a phenomenon that you come across in our daily lives. Every time I look at the rainbows, okay, then all kind of phenomena like looming, then mirages. When I look at all these phenomena, then I always derive this concept by using the concept of critical angle. Okay, so once we have understood this critical angle concept, then we will understand what is total internal reflection. And before total internal reflection, I want you to understand for numericals one important concept. The concept is, let us understand it. Suppose I place here, suppose it is a beaker containing water, right, and at the bottom here in the middle, I set up a bulb. Now, the light which is travelling from this bulb actually is travelling from what? Denser to rarer medium. So, maximum that area on the surface which can be illuminated is this area. And how do you define this area? Because rays which are going at with this angle of incidence, which is equal to the critical angle, these rays will go like this. and this angle is what? This angle is critical angle. Similarly, here also this ray will go like this. So light will be scattering from the surface through this cone, and its semi-vertical angle will be how much here? IC. Now this is a very important concept. We will be using it for numericals. Directly this relation can be used for doing numericals. Suppose water is here up to a depth h. If this will be h, then this will also be how much here? H. And suppose the radius here is r. Radius is how much here? R. Then we can calculate the radius through which the light will be able to escape. Suppose this is point P, this is A and this is B. So we know that sin IC will be equal to 1 by mu. When I look at this triangle, then tan IC will be perpendicular by base, which will be R by H. And sin IC is equal to 1 by mu. If I construct this triangle, this is IC, perpendicular is 1, hypotenuse is mu. So base is how much? Mu square minus 1. So we can calculate tan. Tan will be 1 over root over mu square minus 1. If I put it here, then I have 1 over mu square minus 1 is equal to R by H. So what will the R? Well, R will be, this will be a very handy formula. That light will be escaping from the surface through a cone whose semi-vertical angle will be equal to critical angle and whose radius will be how much? H over root over, mu square minus 1. Mu square minus 1. Also sometimes they can ask you, find area on the surface through which the light will be able to escape. So what will be area on the surface? Pi into r square. Once you know how much is r, you can calculate how much will be pi into r square. Clear, children? So this is again an important concept involving critical angle. Okay. Now children, once we got the concept of critical angle, we will be understanding what is total internal reflection. Let us see a situation out here. This is medium 1, which is rarer, and this is medium 2, which is denser. P is a point source. A ray is incident here at critical angle. This angle is equal to critical angle. So what will be the angle of refraction out here? 90 degree. Clear? When angle of incidence for the ray traveling from denser to rarer medium is 90 degree, then angle of refraction in the rarer medium is how much? A right angle. When angle of incidence in the denser medium is equal to critical angle, then angle of refraction in the rarer medium is 90 degree. Now imagine a situation in which I take a ray whose angle of incidence is more than critical angle. Like look at this ray. For this angle of incidence I is more than what? Critical angle. Then what will happen to this light ray now? Because in the other medium there cannot be an angle more than 90 degree. So what we see is that this light ray now is returned to the same medium. And returning of a light ray to the same medium is called what? Reflection. Now we call it total internal reflection. Why it is total internal? Because by definition, none of this incident ray will go into the other medium, it will come back into the what? Same medium. Right? So, if I increase the angle of incidence beyond the critical angle, then the ray is returned into the same medium is called total internal reflection. So, what is total reflection? If angle of incidence for a light ray traveling from a denser to rarer medium is more than the critical angle, then the ray is returned into the same medium, and when the ray will be returned to the same medium, it will be a case of reflection. It will be obeying the law of reflection, meaning if this is I, so this will also be how much? I, same angle. Clear? So what will be the conditions of our total internal reflection? Number one, the ray has to travel from a denser medium to a rarer medium. And the second condition is that angle of incidence should be more than critical angle. So children will be studying condition, we'll be defining first what is total internal reflection. When reflect, we defined when. Now children, we will be discussing what are conditions for total internal reflection. So the conditions are conditions for total internal reflection. First one is that the light should be traveling from a denser to rarer medium. Light should travel from denser to a rarer medium. This is the first condition, and the second condition is angle of incidence should be more than critical angle. I should be more than IC. Clear children? So you went through the concept of total internal reflection also. We had introduction. We will be seeing its application and beautiful applications in fact, using total reflecting prisms, then the rainbows, and all these phenomena we will discuss in the next video. Okay? Thank you.